Hello, welcome to the Reloved Guitars workshop, and it's yet another weekend, and this time it's not sunny, it's raining unfortunately, but we've got loads to do. Just come back from my usual day job, and a couple of things to do this weekend. First one is to finish off the little bodywork repairs to this Squire Telecaster. That shouldn't take too long, just a couple of little dings that were filled with horrible red wood filler, that kind of wood filler that everyone's got in their shed. So I've kind of replaced it with a bit more of a olivey green colour. It's not perfect, but it'll look better than the bright orange thing, and it's quite difficult to match up those colours. That's the first thing. There's quite a few things actually. Second thing is to do a complete strip down and clean up of this vintage V99 Les Paul copy, which I got last week. I've already got somebody who wants to swap this for a Telecaster, so that's cool. This is just a little bit dirty, otherwise it's all sound. I think one of the tone knobs spins too much, so we'll take a look inside and take care of those as well. But this is just going to need a really good clean, and I like these V99s more than the V100s, and that puts me probably in a huge minority. But there's a couple of reasons for it. One is I don't buy the tone wood argument that says these things don't resonate or sustain properly. Literally, I've not seen any evidence that proves that argument. In fact, I've seen evidence that I'm quite comfortable with that starts to demonstrate the opposite. So, yeah, far from not being good at creating sustain, I think these are pretty damn good guitars at doing that. Also, there's something else about it, is because it's a bolt-on neck. The neck, in my experience so far, the neck appears to behave differently to the glued-in neck, which gets very thick at this point and gets very glued and solidified. It's all kind of welded into place. Because it's welded into place, from about the 13th fret onwards, where my thumb is, upwards, on a bolt-on neck, pretty much any bolt-on Les Paul, that part of the neck is it's kind of fused, if you like. It's just literally rigid. There's no chance that the truss rod is going to really make much difference. I don't even know how far the truss rod goes up here. I've got one from another guitar here, but it's from a Stratocaster style. You know, okay, so ideally or theoretically that truss rod should go all the way to there, but in reality, even if it does, this part of the guitar is so thick and so solidly glued in position, I can't see any way that it's going to bend. And in fact, I've observed that it doesn't bend. You can put quite a bit of relief into this part of the neck and it will just go, it'll make a curve. It'll make a curve, but when you see that curving there, and when it gets to about here, it'll flatten out and it can actually look a bit like a ski slope or something. So I like the bolt-on versions of this for that reason. You have much more control over the neck, and as a result, I think you can set them up really easily to play really well. The other thing I've noticed with the V100s, and I don't know how this pans out, you know, I've only done 4 or so of them, but I think every single one of the V100s I've done has a problem with the bridge position and the intonation, and I haven't noticed that with the V99, but I've only done one previous V99, so there still might be a problem. Anyway, everything about this looks really good, so that will be doing that one, setting that one up, giving it the proper job. And on top of that, I have got some Toneriders to install into Jay's Chibson. Okay, we've been waiting a few weeks for these, several weeks in fact, but here they are at last. Tonerider humbuckers, and they're going to go into the Chibson, which is in that box down there. One last, well maybe not last thing, there's more even, but anyway, may get around to it, but maybe another week. Just to kind of introduce you briefly to this week's mongrel, and this is a locally sourced Squire Stratocaster Affinity, which has taken a few knocks. It's got a few little chips taken out of it, and the pick guard is looking a bit worse for wear. Everything's filthy. Kind of works. It's a bog standard Affinity. It's got a chunk of wood taken out there, but again, not in any way that affects its playing. Just tired old thing. So I'm going to do this one up from scratch, and just, you know, it goes to show that you can take a standard old hound like this and at least make it play a little bit better, or a lot better, and give it a new lease of life. Give it some real kind of attention and clean up. So that's something I'm looking forward to doing. And again, it's not going to be an expensive thing. I mean, I might sell it for, I might be getting, put it up for 80 quid or 85 quid, something like that. It's not going to be loads of money, but it's just bringing it back to life. And there's a Squire set of electrics I could either just replace straight out with those, or take bits off it. Got quite a few bits. Anyway, so that's the stuff for this weekend. I've also got a little tiny project on the go here, which you can probably barely even see. This is a little miniature guitar, acoustic guitar. I just coated it with some lacquer, which I just want to dry, and I want it to dry smooth, so I put it on quite thick. This is a little miniature guitar which I made for my son for his 1/18th figures, action figures that he collects and modifies. And so this will be they do have props like guitars and mostly guns, I have to say, but this will be the first homemade guitar that any of his peers or friends have got on their figures. So this one has been made out of a bit of an old affinity neck, actually, a bit of a plain maple neck. So this is taken from a piece of wood around the heel section, which makes it a really nice material for doing little miniatures like this. But what was dozy about it, and if you can see the plaster here, I set myself up to carve this thing on the train going up to London last week, and yeah, I took some sandpaper, I took some Stanley knife, brand new Stanley knife blade, the kind I use here all the time, these raw things, and I sat down on a train and started to whittle and cut this thing away. And I was holding the guitar and doing the thing, and the train lights went off. For no reason at all, the train lights went off and the train swerved at the same time. And I just completely span it out and chopped straight into the side of my finger and cut a very large slice into there, which has been covered all week in various plasters, hoping that it will stick together the two parts of it, because it was like... And there was blood everywhere. So that will teach me to be a plonker when it comes to carving wood on a moving train with holding the piece of wood. But you know, a little tiny miniature guitar is too small to put in a vise or a clamp. So anyway, I've learned my lesson, I think. Right, I'm not really sure which thing I'm going to do first. Just a little observation, and I took this out of the guitar. This is quite a good way of showing you what, well, it's good. It shows you what a truss rod is. It has some marks on it where somebody's tried to saw through it, actually. But what we've got is a screw, a hex screw thing there to tighten up, and we've got two pieces of metal welded together, and one of them pulls the one shorter, pulls one against the other, and it shortens the distance and bends the thing. So it's not a very good technical explanation. So if I were to, I have to be very careful because this finger is still not very good. It's not going to make rehearsing with the band so easy this week. So you get your Allen key in there, and you can put it in and apply some pressure. I don't know if you can, well, you can probably see actually. You can see straight away that's put a curve into the rod, and that's how it works. That's what it does. Take that the other way, and it will slack off that pressure, and the thing will return to pretty much flat. There you go. So it's nice to have this just knocking about from a dead neck, because we can show it in action. Right, so what are we going to do first? Well, there are various things. I could do the finishing on the Telecaster inside, that's true. The real stuff I can't do outside is the pickups, which I need to really get going on so that I can give this back to Jay this weekend. And I've got all the hardware of this guitar sitting off waiting to go back on. So I don't know if any of you folks remember seeing this before, but here we have the Chinese Gibson copy. Pretty handsome all round. You know, there are a lot of people very critical of these things. I'm not in favour of them at all. I don't see any need to fake something. If you're going to make a guitar as good looking as this, just make a guitar and don't try and call it a Gibson. Just give it another name, You're not going to be any less breaking the law than if you put Gibson on it, so you might as well just not try and be something you aren't. But so this guitar, I've done the frets on this, I don't know, about a month ago, so they're level, and it was just waiting for pickups, which we've now got. So I'm going to get myself all set up. It's also missing one of those knobs, which I may have. I'm going to get myself all set up with soldering irons, know which wires I'm dealing with, know exactly what's going on, and the job tonight will be to put in these new the new Tonerider pickups and to test them out, and then close the patient up and reinstall all the hardware, and then just continue with the setup process. And I want to get that finished by the end of tonight. So I guess that's the first job, and then we'll go on to the kind of more fun dismantling things later on. We need a bit of light relief, because this will be sort of fairly intense concentration to get these done. It's not complicated, we just don't want to mess up at all. And God, my finger doesn't work, honestly. So we've got the, if you can see, pickups there. We should have some wiring instructions and some springs. There we go. Installation guide. All you could ever use. Very, very handy. So the pickup itself, nicely made. I mean, just have a close look at that fella. That's a quality back end of a pickup. There's no doubt about that. It's much nicer than even the what have I got? Yeah, even the Wilkinson stuff looks absolutely. I don't know what I'm saying. Even the Wilkinson stuff looks pretty. Oh, I didn't like that one anyway. Looks pretty simple and tacky by comparison. So there's a good quality Wilkinson humbucker, but it doesn't have that sort of tidiness of the Tonerider. So we've got these, and they're clearly labelled bridge and neck, so I can't make any mistakes there. And yeah, let me just get all set up. Boxes out of the way. 2 sets of instructions, no doubt. This one, has it got a label on? Oh, that's weird. Right, this is neck, and it hasn't got a label on, so I'm going to write N on it, just for my own edification. N for neck, and B for bridge. There we go. It's probably got it, but it may just be hidden by, well, oh yeah, it has got it. N for neck, it's just hidden by that wire. Okay, so we've got our pickups, and we've got our instructions and our wires and our screws. Get this stuff out of the way. Get these empty boxes to one side. Close this. Might be needing a cup of tea before I start all of this. Anyway, let me get myself set up and rehearsed, and then I'll come back and we'll go off and do it. Okay, so I'm just kicking off with removing the pickup surrounds. Just while I was in the house, I just picked up a comment on YouTube from somebody who's commented on the video about this particular guitar, and saying, you know, he didn't understand why people spend money on crap like this. And I think, you know, if you were chucking £300 at it, I'd probably agree with you. However, you know, this is 60 quid I think Jay paid for this, so it's not a hell of a lot of money. Okay, so the bridge, red, yellow is the neck pickup. The yellow is coming through to this one here. There we have it. Okay, and I can just gently pull that back out through. So out comes. I've cut it already at the end. And the reason I've cut it is it just leaves. It's silly, but I don't need all the length anyway. But I've cut it, and it just leaves me the bits that are soldered in place are still there, soldered in place, so I know where they are. And if I've got enough slack and I can afford to do that, then, you know, if you're memory isn't brilliant and you're a bit absent-minded, then why not do it? Because it just means you'll have the wires still soldered into place when you come to put the new ones on. You can just remove them right up to the last minute. You've got a guide, if you like. Anyway, so here come, and that's a red one, and that's also cut, and that can come out too. Now what we're going to need to do is to change over, taking these bits out, we need to change over the housing for this before we put them back in. We'll put the new pickups in place. So that's a bit fiddly. That's not fiddly, it's just, you know. So neck and thingy. Neck and neck, neck and neck. Okay, here we have the new neck and the old neck and the new neck from ça. And that comes, that's the way round it is. Yell. Okay, so with this I'm going to take out undo the screws on this, and all we're really using from this is the cream surround, plastic cream surround, because we do have some new cleaner looking things that match the new pickups, so we'd better use those. We've got one for each set. Okay, so that comes out. Just replacing them should be fairly simple. It gets a bit more complicated if you're going to introduce a coil tap or something into the mix, which we're not, so keeping it simple. So it's basically a kind of swap over, and we're just hoping that they're the right size to just match up, which they do. And now what I can do is put them back on. The thing to be careful of here is the springs are, when you're putting anything with springs together, the springs are always keen to spring off, quite literally, and you just got to watch out that they don't go whizzing off somewhere, because they kind of get compressed a bit like I'm doing now, and then at the first opportunity they'll ping off, and it isn't actually that easy to keep them in place. So that's taken a bit of a grip, and I want to do the other one with the other clean looking screw. And again, making sure that it's lined up and that we push it on and get a bite and start screwing it so that it's not going to go anywhere from this point onwards. It's quite difficult in some ways, especially if you've got a bad finger as well. Okay, I've got a bit of a bite on it there. And this is going to need to screw on quite some distance now to get this into place. This is where I suppose using the screw electric thing would probably work a bit, but there we go. And as you're doing it, if you're doing this, just make sure that it goes through and that you don't end up just... Clever boy. Yeah, just make sure it doesn't end up bending this plastic into destruction. I hope this is still screwing on alright. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Okay. And then just stop at a reasonable point, and then that will be ready to put in. And so what I'm just noticing on this neck pickup, sorry, is that the neck? Yeah, the yellow one's the neck pickup. On here, the wire comes out the opposite side. It's claiming to be the same thing, just comes out the opposite side. It's just the way it is. With the same ply on here. No, on here it's correct. On here it's not. It's the opposite. That's interesting. These come out the same way, but when they're in place, these come out the opposite side. It doesn't matter, it just happens to be different. Okay, so this one is going to sit in there like that. Okay, sorry, that's what I'm interested about, is that these two, when they sit, that's confusing me. When these two things sit, right, when they sit in place in the guitar, that one is going to, the end input will be there, and here it'll be at the top. So they're opposite sides. That's what I'm trying to say. Is on this thing, when they are sitting the correct way round, right, they're on the same side, which is common. This is a bit unusual to see. That's definitely the neck and that's definitely the bridge, but they are coming out of opposite sides as if they were designed to be lined up that way. Who knows? I don't. I just know that I'm going to put them back in the way that it seems to be you're supposed to put them in. I think I could do with an electric screwdriver at this point. Takes care of the boring part sometimes, using the electric screwdriver. The person who commented about the Chibsons maintained that the Chibsons he's seen have a poor neck, bad quality neck in common. In other words, they aren't good quality. I've not had that experience with this one. It doesn't appear to be in any way poor quality, so we'll see. It set up nicely when I came to it. Well, it did the refretting and leveling perfectly well, and it looked okay from that perspective. So, you know, maybe Jay's got lucky. Maybe it's only the occasional one, but it seems to be good so far. I feel like with this plaster in the way, I feel like I'm all thumbs or fingers or something. Really do feel clumsy, to say the least. Oh. Mind you, this isn't the easiest thing in the world to do anyway. Get a bite. Okay. Come along. There we go. New jobbies on. Okay, lined up. Lined up the way they should be, getting thicker, fatter as we go towards the back, facing opposite ends, knowing they are oppositional to each other, which is very weird. So I'm going to put them back in and thread the wires through. I'll package up Jay's replacement monsters, because I'm sure he might want to do something with them. I'll put them back in these here boxes. Should I put them through there? Why not? Replacements, and then they might get sold as Tonerider as some unsuspecting person. Hope not. Wouldn't like that. Okay, not Toneriders. They didn't have very good resistance or very high resistance, these things. They weren't very hot, but you know, they don't have to be. It's not obligatory. Okay, let's just get the guitar up on the bench and let's get rid of this heat. I've got another bench coming this weekend. Bought some wooden supports and I've got the workbench piece down there. So looking forward to putting that in perhaps sometime tomorrow. A bit of woodworking and then things will look different over there. Haven't quite worked out where the workmate thing will go, but another work surface over there would be great so that things don't have to go on the floor. Okay, so here we have the bridge pickup, and I want to thread these little things through, so I'm going to just clump them together with a bit of masking tape, just to make a single, hopefully, a single thing to poke through the little tunnel here, because it can be quite difficult to shove loose wires through. Just flip it over for a second. Grab a hold of the bit that's come through. Come along. Never much room, so never wants to do what I want it to do. And I'm just going to put these lightly, or put them back in, screw the pickups back in place now, because what I don't want is these things moving around. Come on, you. If you've got the clutch really low, you can do these things without too much worry, because they will go quite quickly into clutch clicking mode. Okay, that one through, sticking out, and we know that's the bridge pickup, so we know where that's going. It's going at the bottom, so black to the bottom. Well, it's not currently going to the bottom. And then we're going to tape this one as well. I've done this, I knew I should have done it the other way around. I should have pushed the front wire through first to make sure it went through. I was sitting there thinking, yeah, that was too easy. So I got there. Yes, the idea is you put the front wire through first, so that you know that it's going all the way through. Still need to tie it off a little bit. Ouch. This wire is quite thick and angular, so it's not the easiest to push through. It doesn't have a natural, what's the word? It doesn't naturally want to just push on through there. Might be my little reverse things. There you go. Through you go. Ooh, these are just fitting Yeah, that's just only a fraction spare room on there. That's okay, but we might have had to take a file to that, to the routing a little bit, but that is okay. The question is whether or not this pickup will move any more like this, as whether it may well be struggling to go up and down. We need to make an adjustment. Feel. Let's try it, make a judgment on what it will do, not what we think it will do. Yeah, it's moving, that's okay. Good. Right, so we need to still push this part all the way through. We'll get it to straighten out a little bit, might help. There you go. Gently lift over, grab the other piece. Has it come through yet? No. Yes it has. Yes it has. Come through. Grab it. Pull it through. Okay. Now it's interesting, these are of course the exact same colour, so that's the wrong way around as well. Let's get it right. So the bridge one, which I'm pulling on now, bridge one needs to go to the bottom part, and I need to mark to tell me what the hell this one is. So I'm holding the bridge one. I'll take all this stuff off in a minute. Just going to put a piece of tape on the black tape so I know which is which. So for now, this one is, bridge is marked with a piece of masking tape, so I can't make any mistake. It seemed like really simple things to take care of, but it can be so easy to lose track of it, and before you know it you've gone and soldered the wrong one in place, and once you've done that you've created yourself an absolute pain of a job to take it all apart and add more melting and more heat, more soldering, and it's truly frustrating. So I always make trebly sure by labelling and going to what might look to you like extreme lengths, but to me makes a lot of sense to get it right. Mainly because I've got it wrong plenty enough times in the past, and as you saw, the minute I wasn't thinking, I went and put one in the wrong, well, put the first one in the wrong one in sequence. So anyway, right, so here we have our pickups installed, looking alright. Now we're over to the other side of things. We know the bridge one goes to the bottom and we know where it goes, but you won't be able to see this very well, so I might move this round for you in a minute. And what's happened here is the black and the white need to be taped off, and that seems to have come off somewhere, the little rubber sheath. That's when I was pulling it off, so let me just tape that. There goes super glue. Those lids you can never put on properly anyway, once you've used them once. Okay, so I want the red is my live action thing, my green and my plain black and white are taped off, which I think will be any second now. And green and white are earthing. Sorry, green and bare are earthing, and red is the name of the game. I've got plenty of room to do this, but I don't have an awful lot of room in actual fact to manoeuvre down in here. It's for somebody with big clumsy hands like mine, it can be really difficult, or I can find it very difficult to do this, and I can get into quite a heated frazzle at times. Now this one doesn't want to come off very easily. Again, frustratingly fiddly to get it, put that's taken off the insulation again off the black and the white one, but that's okay because I'll do the same thing. In doing so, I'm going to make sure I also mark again which is which, because I've lost the marking now. This one is bridge. Masking tape is bridge. Okay, now I'll bend this one back. Before I do any sticking down, otherwise known as soldering, I'm going to just have a sort of check and make sure that the way these things come through the forest of wiring make the most logical sense. So where they don't, and where they appear to be sort of crossing things unnecessarily, I'm just going to feed them back through to give myself as much room, because quite often what you'll find is that you can get into a situation where the wires appear to be quite tight the way they're fed through to where you get from one place to the other, and what you need is to get them out from under any kind of, you want to free them up from wherever they appear to be stuck down. Okay, so I've got this one over here. Let's just stick out of the way while I do the first one. Right, just because I don't want these wires getting anywhere near the soldering iron. That's the main thing, because the soldering iron goes in that hole, and you can be focusing so much on the place you're trying to solder it to that before you know it, you've managed to melt something else close by. Okay, now I can see what I'm trying to do. The position 1 on this pot is where I want to put my live, which is my red one, and then my earth obviously just goes to the top, and I can do it anywhere I like on the top. It's just earthing it, but the red obviously has to go where the red has to go. So it's a matter of making sure that those things there's enough room to get where you've got to go, and then it's a matter of, okay, this is quite a closed in tight space, and to do this I've got my soldering iron ready heated up. I've got a lot of wires around here that are going to attempt to get in my way if I'm not careful, so I just want to push as many of them out of the way as possible. Max, who came round to bring me his Japanese Squire the other day, had seen me struggling with this soldering iron, and had brought over, when he came, a kind of neoprene or rubberized wire cable that he'd put on his soldering iron. It felt a million times better than this plasticky thing that sort of gets coiled round and stuck. So I haven't gone and bought it yet, but it inspired me to go and look for similar. Okay, so I need to get the earth on first, and to get that on I'm also going to need to get off the, sorry, I need to get the live one off. That's my first one, and it's very tight in there, and I don't have a lot of light, so I'm going to throw some light from above onto this thing here. I'm conscious that I've turned this over and I didn't put in those 4 screws. See if you can see what I'm doing at all. It's probably as good an angle as I'm going to get. Now if I fire up with some light, ooh, that's quite nice. Chuck all the lights we've got in the world at it. Well, that makes it easy. So live, earthed on top. The question is getting down into that thing without melting anything else. So what I'm trying to do is just make sure everything else that can be pushed out the way is tucked out of the way. Give myself the clearest workspace. And I do this because partly because I know I'm by no means a very tidy solderer. So I've got no room there. I've got a bit of room there. Yeah, I'm not a tidy solderer, and for me to get into this space here, to get this wire without touching anything else, is quite a challenge. And in fact, it may make more sense for me, first of all, to hold my tool properly. It make more sense for me to go and melt off this solder on top here, and that will allow me to remove this excess. Yeah, it's not taking a while. I can remove the excess, and I can also remove this black one here, which is a kind of joining one. Now I know, I can move it again, this one here, I know it has to go back on the top, but if I move it for now, what it will do is it will give me access, moving it out of the way, it'll give me access to this white one with a lot less likelihood of damage. Now these two are just paired together for convenience, so I can move them as much as possible. Okay, so now I'm going to go inwards and take out the old live wire remnants that are on the contact there, and I know that I've got to get my red one back in there. But this is sharing a solder point with the purple thing, right? So there's my earth, there's my live, and it's sharing a solder point, and I've got to get that this red one back in with the same purple, and that's where it gets a little bit fiddly, because right now I don't know how much solder is on that joint at all, so I'm just using the bentness of the wire and to try and just feed it through as it is, hopefully keeping my iron. It's not going through easily. Okay, I end up holding my breath for too long, and that's not very good. Cutters. Right, I want a clean end to this. I don't want a big spiky sprayed part, splayed end. I need this to just go through that hole cleanly. Not going through. Why is that? Right, I haven't got with me the bright lights, so it's not. I can't see why that isn't going through, because, as I say, even with these bright lights, I actually don't have quite enough information, visual information in this hole. And that's the annoying thing about trying to solder it into a hole. There is, I think there is a gap for this to go through. Right, there's a gap, so we've melted out the solder, which is okay. We can add some more. Right, so I want to just fold this wire back once it's through. I want to just fold it back on itself so that I know it's holding. I've just managed to jump it straight out again. Oh, it's not good with a bandaged finger as well. Naughty. Okay, now that's sitting in place under its own pressure. I would like it a bit more bent over so it'll stay. That would be alright. If I just get some good quality heat onto this joint, minding out not to melt anything else on the way in. Come on. Okay, so that's my live in place. Now I have the 3 earths to put back, and I'm just going to untangle one of them, this black one here, which is now currently going under a couple of things. It's just got to earth out on the top of the pot, which I might as well do it at exactly the same time as I do these other ones here, make them all part of the same deal. So I'll just give it a little bit of a twist around there. And it might be I can put a bit of a join on these anyway while they're sitting up here. Okay, and then underneath that I really need to put a bit of a pool of solder on top. That gives me as much room as I can to sink these common earth bits into it, and to help me with that I will use, I think it was in here, plasticky thing that doesn't melt quite the same way as it is. Okay, so I'm going to want to basically press this onto there and heat the whole thing up and sink that into there. Okay, on you go. On you go, son. That looks about right to me. Hold it in place. Right. Take away my holding thing. Okay, so just double check, make sure these joints are clean and solid. We've got that earth in place, we've got those 2 things, the green, the bare, and this, actually it's the bridge post earth. It's gone to the top of that pot. I'm going to push these wires out the way, and now we're going to focus on these ones here. A similar thing applies, it's just a matter of let's go in and get everything we can out the way, so there's not a kind of nasty cluster of things. Again, there's not a lot of free room here. In fact, there's hardly any room. I can barely get down to this. The red and the brown on this thing are just a pair of wires that are lightly joined, and I'm going to pull them apart. They're only joined for sort of convenience sake. One is the earth jumper across the top of the pots, and the other one is the live jump across to the capacitor, which I don't need right now. So I guess the first thing I'll do again is heat up and take off the earth off the top of the pot, going in through a little arch. It's not very well attached, this one. Okay, and then I'll go in and just heat this joint up enough to take this one out. So I know what I'm doing again. I'm going with the red to the red is to the live thing, but I need to just lengthen the bare wire on this. Get it the right way up. There you go. And the green and the bear we'll do the same, extend it a bit, but they'll be together on top. This time I didn't rub off the take off the common earth or the jumper earth across the top, so I don't need to replace that just yet. So I don't think we'll take it off at all. Twisting these two together as best we can, but I want to do the difficult live hot one first, because that's the one that's, well, they're all critical, but it's really critical to get right, and it's more than anything, that one's difficult now. It could be that I take this other one off, and I might just do that, take this one off and attach these two together. There's a bit of spare on here, so I have got a little bit of room to play with. So if I cut off this gnarled end and then strip back a little bit, it'll give me something to join up with this this live. Quite difficult to do any stripping. Okay, so these two need to live together. Now we can try and make them into one and see if they will both go through that little connector. There we have them together. It makes it a bit easier. It's still difficult to manipulate these. Not only the fact that the two of them are together now, they're sort of all pulling in different directions, plus the fact that this big chunky one really doesn't want to do anything I tell it. It's got a mind of its own. So getting this to, it goes straight through. Right, all the solder's already off. That actually makes it one hell of a lot easier. So I can go through and grab hold of the leftover on the other side and just pull it up, and then I can tab it back a little bit with a screwdriver, and that gives me a great chance now to get a good blob of solder on both of those into that connector. And then once we've done that, it's just a matter of getting the earths back on, and we'll be away. Now I don't want to melt the wires on this, so I'm just going to be really careful how I go in and get going with. Come on, now this is moving, I don't want it to. Everything's moving, I do not want it to do this. What I want is this thing to stay where I put it. Let's try and wedge it under this capacitor for a minute. Please stay there. I need you to stay there. It's really important. Go back, and I need a clean union, but I don't want this brown lead to get melted, so I'm going to push that out of the way as well. It gives us as much room as possible to get some good quality solder down onto that joint. Here it comes. Thank you. That's your job. All looking good. Now I'm going to push back those wires again, just so I can keep them out of trouble for a little bit longer. See, I'll can I grab them out of the way like that? Not really. I sort of could if I taped them in some sort of. Well, maybe that will do. I just need. You can't really see this, can you? No, you can't. I just need. Let's move that out of the way when I didn't want it to. I needed these little brown and black thingies out of the way, and that sort of will do, except it's falling forward. Right, that's where I need them. Sorry, it'd be very loud. I didn't mean to be so loud. So I'm going to build me up some solder on the roof of this for an earth connection. Come on. Big blob, always over generous with it. Next piece of the game is to tuck this under there. And these guys still need to be a bit out of the way. Thank you. And all I need to do now is get these two fellas into, I have to do this left-handed now, need to get those down into the solder, which is about to melt when I do the next move. Come on, melt, 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 melt. Everything's melting well, okay? Go cold naturally, please. And remove. Right. That concludeth the surgery. Let's just double check. We've got the black jumper wire, not jumper wire actually, it was the bridge post earth. It's now earth there. That bridge pickup is earth to the top of there. It's red live, it's on there. The red live is on there, along with the jump across to the tone pot there. We've got this earth nicely. Everything should be in good order. I'm going to stash the soldering iron. There's this thing. I'm just unplug this a minute. Sorry, I'm dragging the colour block around with me. Okay, this should be in order. I'm just going to do the simplest of clicking tests to make sure we have it installed. What wire am I going to use for that purpose? I'm going to have to use this. Yeah, okay, loud enough. So, quick click with our screwdriver. That's right. It's doing what it says on the tin. Okay, okay. So there we have it. Tonerider's installed. I'm just going to screw these things back. So those of you watching who might be experts in soldering, good for you. I'm not. It's a pretty scary place for me, so I take my time. Take my chances. Yeah, take my time, and I just do it very, very carefully. And I always make sure that I have a kind of mental map of where I'm going with it. Otherwise, I know very easily, or I know how easy it is for me to get lost and then to go into a kind of bit of a meltdown because I really don't know what in the hell's going where. Okay, so Toneriders, off come the covers. To be honest, I can't have any respect for a man who keeps covers on his Toneriders. Just give these a quick brush. It's got a bit of a blemish on here, but it's like that from the outset. So I'm just going to take these down because they need to be much lower, judging by the set of the neck, and it needs to be quite flat in. Now this one is the one that is just struggling to go down because of the way it fits in. I think that's about right. I'm going to take this one down as well. It doesn't want to go down. Why not? Interesting. That's as low as it will go. No, it goes lower on that end. Yeah, you have to help it along with a finger. Sorry, you're looking at something really boring while I'm doing this. I need to just extend you a bit. Okay, lots of over bright lights going on around here a minute. So just to recap, new pickups in. Now it's time to restring, or put the hardware on, and I think, unless I'm mistaken, hardware should all be clean. Please. No, I don't think I've actually cleaned the hardware. No, I haven't. Right. I'm going to stand this up, and I'm going to do the cleaning of the hardware and come back to you when I've done it, because in a way it's a bit boring and obvious. I'm going to get some naphtha and clean all of these components which haven't been cleaned. So I'll see you in a second when I kind of put them on the guitar. Got the news on, so sorry if that's in the background. So I'm just putting the scratch plate on, and I'm just going to get a longish nose pliers just to hold the little screw nut in place while I turn the thing. The one thing you need, you can never find, right at the bottom. And you can't see anything there.
The Nigerian army says it's recaptured the northeastern town of Chibsons from the Islamist militant group Boko Haram. It called the town the headquarters of the group's self-declared candidate. The mountain recently used Nigeria's general elections expected to be closely contested.
Now, I'm just going to take the bridge off a second. I'm not going to do the truss rod because I want that. I'm happy with the electrics, so I'm going to put their covers back on. I'm just holding it up because I don't want to press the selector switch onto the ground, because I've just put a little dab of super glue on it to get it to sit and glue on, because it was split slightly. So
they and this entire town are slowly realising their new place in this country. The sitting mayor's wife is Diane Ray. She's originally from Pembrokeshire. She's lived in France for 35 years.
This is going to be the French Lockerbie.
I've got this upside down, haven't I? I was thinking it was a nice fit. You could have told me that, you should have seen it.
Some of the family members of the victims are still here. They're being protected by the gendarmes. They've not yet spoken to reporters, and we can understand why. So we are having to fill in the silence on their behalf. Why did Andreas Lubitz apparently crash the German-winged aircraft in the mountains? And could anything in his past have predicted
Hello, sweetie.
Thomas is solidified.
Oh
His computer's failing.
yeah, I'm going to swear. It's finally finished. Died.
Yeah, dying. The keys are coming off the keyboard.
Overuse.
Abuse. There's nothing I want. There's nothing I can get for £500.
Well, they have to get a job and find the rest of the money then, huh? It can't just be, I know it's hard, but it can't be based around games.
I know, well that's why I can't get any more money from the trust, because
They're not going to.
I can't exactly plead the case of... But it doesn't play
It doesn't play
games, I'm
graphics
sure
fast enough.
done really well.
Anyway.
So he's miserable. That's looking good.
That's the Chibson with the new pickups fixed.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick some springs on it now. This is the last set of springs, so I'm out.
Again.
Oh, hellfire. That means
Order some more.
I'm going to have to, but we're going to put on V99 is going to have tens. Oh no, I'm going to put tens on here. Tens on the Chibson. Sorry, it's short strings. Anyway, I've been cheating and doing a video whilst listening to the radio, hoping that Radio 4 aren't going to sue me. Okay, so here we have everything ready to go. Strings on, pair of cutters, which I've again lost. There are only 3 of these things, that's one of them. Okay, I'm going to put 10s on here, which means I need to order some more.
I did come in to tell you something.
I thought Thomas was being miserable. Scott Grove said the system of going 1 over 2 under or doing anything at this end is just nonsense. I'm not sure about that, Scott. I think this really does help to have a kind of catching, locking thing at this end. I don't think it does any harm to do it this way.
1 over 2 under?
Yeah, I do 1 over the top of the excess string and then 2 under.
Okay.
No, it doesn't really work, does it? I mean, it doesn't really make that much difference, but
what does he do then?
I don't know. He just shoves it straight on and winds it on. But I think that does help. I haven't had any problems since doing it. So
that's because you're a dumb fucker.
You can't say that on my videos. I am a dumb MF. Right. If you don't know Scott Grove, go and watch him because he is great fun.
He swears a lot.
He swears a lot. He's a really nice guy, but people just get really upset with him because he swears. And
of course you never do.
No, I never do, not on video. But
you haven't heard him get Tourette's yet.
No, that's because I planned my soldering just very carefully.
Because you're a good editor.
No, I'm not editing anything. But I did make sure that my soldering, my plan for soldering was all in place before I did any. No, Scott's really interesting, and I think he's a very generous, intelligent guy who gets people's backs up very quickly because he if he doesn't believe in something, he tells it very straight.
He's got a particular style, hasn't
he does.
He? Either love or hate, or both.
He's quite self-effacing as well, but the thing is, he pisses people off because he says what he really believes. So, for example, with the issue of the tone wood argument, he just thinks it's a load of rubbish. And I tend to agree with him, by the way, it'll get me shot down. But I agree with him. He thinks it's a load of rubbish, and he gives a really good reason and set of reasons as to why. But of course, there are loads of people out there online who totally believe in it and think anyone who thinks it's rubbish are idiots. So he makes a lot of enemies that way. And I just
yeah, it just is. It doesn't matter whether it's rubbish or not. It works or it doesn't.
Yeah. But I'm like him in the sense that if I see good evidence, I'll believe what the evidence shows me.
James Gandhi.
Brandy. The peaceful magician,
yeah.
James Gandhi.
Who's gay?
He is, isn't he? Never would have imagined that.
Out into this range, you like the fact I pull all my sticks out.
I do.
And,
I've noticed it. I thought it was really, really empty in here.
Well, that's all you care about.
Is that supposed to
be enough space in here?
No, I liked it.
Yeah, no. It's no good for me, though.
Oh, so why did you put it all out there?
Because I was going to sort through it.
Oh, so it was a mistake.
Yeah, I didn't mean to leave it out there.
Well, it was nice for the short while that they are out there. Right? Box of mercy.
So I'm going to take my tea and take the boy.
Okay.
Flat ball. So I'll see you later.
Right then. The joys of having teenage stepsons. Whose computers have worn out and now they want a new one, but not the one that we can afford. One that kicks ass and does all the graphics things and is brilliant for playing games all day and all night. And unfortunately, that's not going to be possible. But Thomas is not very pleased with that. Sorry, I'm boring you with a look down at the bridge. So I am, as you can obviously tell, stringing this thing. And once I've stringed it, then it's a case of doing the setup and the intonation, and we'll be away. And hopefully, well, definitely be able to give this back to Jay Sunday. I'm also aiming to finish the V99 so that I can go and hand that over to Kerno. Not his real name, obviously, but obviously a patriotic Cornishman. And Kerno is going to swap me this V99 for a Squire Fender custom vintage modified thing. And he's really keen to have a Les Paul copy, and he really likes this type, so this seems like a good thing to me, because I know I have a Les Paul for myself. I don't have a telly for myself, so this is a telly with two P90s, so I'll be quite interested to know what that's like, and if it's not my thing, then it's one to sell on, as we love the guitar anyway, so we shall see. So I'm nearly there with the restringing. Following the restringing, I'm going to do the string slack eradication trick, which is basically just a bit of string bending, get rid of the slack, so we don't spend the whole time trying to retune. Okay, now what we've got here is an action that's way too low, so before I do any string bending or anything, I'm just going to crank the action up just to give us a chance to be able to do something on this guitar. Height over the first fret is way too high, but that's the least of our worries right now. We need some playing action first and foremost. It doesn't have to be perfect right now, I'm just going to give us enough to get going with, and then come back and do it, set it in detail a bit later on. I'm noticing that the angle of the coming off the stop piece is also pretty high, so I'm going to reduce some of that while I'm at it as well. Not something I usually have to do, but this is the way this is set up. It could be the shape of the cap on this guitar that necessitates this, but I'm just going to leave that there, and okay, so I'm going to first of all tune it roughly, just take a note off this telly. And just work off that, it doesn't have to stay in tune. Okay, that's just for stretching purposes. So I'm going to just go up and down each string and push with thumb and fingers and just get all of the natural stretch out of it. So I'm going to go up and down each one, pushing side to side, not up and down so much, but side to side seems to work. And then move to the next string and go all the way up and down. So it's pretty bright down here. I hope it hasn't burned out too much on the light. I did it for the wiring. The truth is, we really ought to kind of step back off it a bit. Let's see if that improves. Sorry, because it can be really impossible to see when all those lights are on. We'll see what happens. These 10s I was saving to put on Max's Squire Japanese square strap, but that won't be done finished till next weekend, so it's just as well I'll put them on here, and then I will use 9s on the vintage for chrono. Okay, so that's a first go stretch, and then I'm going to retune again. See how much that took out just by doing that? So save you waiting for that stretch to come out naturally. So once I've got these strings stretched out and got an action set, I'm heading towards getting the intonation right. I'm not going to be able to really demo the sounds on this terribly well because I haven't got a playing hand. Not that makes much difference, I have to tell you. I wouldn't sound that much better anyway. Anyone who's heard me playing a guitar at the end of one of these videos will know that. I can sort of play with other people, and even last week I did a reasonably good solo to Comfortably Numb amongst other things, so I was quite pleased with that. It was great fun anyway. It didn't matter too much how it sounded, I enjoyed it. But I'm not going to be very good at... I'm not going to make these pickups sound as good as they probably should. It matters really that it's Jay that can hear the difference, most importantly, when he gets back on Sunday. Okay, now that's the guitar under tension. That's a lot of the stretch taken out of it. And the next thing I'm going to do with this is, well, first thing I can tell you is that the height over the first fret is way too high, so we're going to take care of that, and it's going to play a lot better. I'm going to just check visually what the relief on the neck is doing. And actually, that's quite straight. A little tiny bit of concavity in the treble side, but actually on the bass side it's very flat. So with that tension from those strings under it, I'd want a bit more curvature. So I'm going to do a counterclockwise action with the truss rod. Counterclockwise. And let the strings pull a bit more relief into the neck. So counterclockwise, I'm slacking off the action of the truss rod. And then if that isn't enough, or it comes out wrong, then I'll go the other way again. But there we are. This is wrong. The height over the first fret is too high. We'll take that down, make that play a lot nicer. And then fine tune the action, and once we've got that taken care of, then it will be on into the intonation side of things. Bright lights. What have we got? Well, still not a lot in the way of concavity. Bit more in there, but not, doesn't feel like. Got a bit. Oh, Capo's not here. I took it gigging. Anyway, I'm just going to check it quite crudely, but with first fret capoed. Yeah, it's not enough on the. Really isn't enough on the bass side. in a way the bass side is where most of the strings are going to spin, or they're going to spin most, I should say. So I'll do a bit more counterclockwise. I can get my Allen key in. Right, about another 40 degrees turn there. Let it pick up or catch up. Meantime, you know, if you're in the same sort of boat, you could just be doing the last couple of stretches while you're waiting for the neck adjustment to take effect. It shouldn't take long, but I've given it a couple of minutes, or you know, can give it a couple of minutes if you want to. I've never really noticed it taking. Some people tell stories of how it takes a day and then it changes completely. I haven't noticed that myself, but I'm not saying it isn't true. I tend to notice the changes to the truss rod are, in my experience, pretty quick. You know, what's true is that when you crank the truss rod, you are deforming the metal structure. You know, the two-part, or sometimes more if it's a two-action one. But anyway, you're transforming, immediately changing the shape of the metal. And somebody who's saying it takes overnight, you're saying it's going to then take a whole 24 hours or something for that deformation of the metal to kind of transfer through to the wood, which sounds a bit impossible, really. Ow. Okay, bit more relief, not a huge amount. Let's leave it for a minute, I'll keep looking at it. So, more shouting. In terms of the action, height of the action here, it's probably still, it's probably now a little bit high, but it is going to go down. So to take it down, you turn the screw clockwise. That will obviously making something rattle. Buzz. Sometimes you find it's parts of the tuners that do that, but okay, let's retune it, keep it under pressure. Okay. So there are those who would say that's the price you get for having a Chibson. Okay, do a tiny bit more tweaking and see if that's cured that. That was the truss rod, believe it or not, was loose. Oop, the truss rod was loose in the. That's okay. That, yeah, truss rod was loose inside the neck and rattling, and now it's stopped. Beautiful. Okay. Okay. So next part of our journey will be to I need to change, plug you in a second. Next part of the journey now will be to set the playing action of the first fret, which is currently way too high. I would guess that's probably nearly a millimetre. You can see just how much depression there is there, and that is going to cause every note down this neck of the woods to be out of tune. It's going to be sharp, so we'll set that correctly, and then we'll finalise the action, and then it'll be intonation time and sound testing. So let me stop for a minute. Well, actually I don't have to stop, but what I want to do is do a little tiny bit more painting on Elliot's miniature sailboat. No, miniature guitar. And here it is. Look at that little baby thing. Now I have to be careful on getting it off. It's bled over onto the guitar itself, which is a shame. I hoped it wouldn't have gone that far. I should have probably, I should continue. I should expect to put a bit more tape on, because I need to add more thickness of cherry. I need to do it without it bleeding through. So I'll come back to worrying about trying to shave out this, sand out this other colour in a minute, but while I'm at it, let me just do whatever I can now to stop it going any further. So I need a piece of timber. Where's a big chunk of timber? Here it is. My sanding block. Good morning, and welcome back to the Reloved Guitars Workshop. I'm Sam, and today is Saturday, and it's time to carry on with a couple of guitars that I've got, both of which need nut slots taken care of. So let me take off the power a minute, take you on a quick flight. Oh, sorry, oh, I hit the thing. Anyway, number one is the Chibson Les Paul copy, which has its new Tonerider pickups sitting in there. What I haven't done on this guitar is I haven't replaced any pots or capacitors, and having spent some good money on these things, it'd be kind of silly not to upgrade those. So I'm kind of thinking a bit later on today I might, well, take the back off and have another poke in the patient and look at replacing those capacitors and pots, which I do happen to have a set which I could do. Anyway, meanwhile, right now is a case of we've got a nut in here, a replacement nut, because I think, was it this guitar? Oh, I can't remember now. No, this is probably the original nut. I've lost track. Anyway, a nut that needs the action setting, because it's quite ridiculously high at the moment. So we'll do that right now. There's the files standing by, and then after that we've got the vintage V99, which we've got the same job to do on it, and in both cases it's then time to intonate, set up the action and finalise the intonation on both guitars, and they'll be done. I'm really pleased with the vintage. It's come up quite nicely after a bit of a hard work polish and after a little bit of a repair to the fingerboard. The fingerboard was cracking off there, and I've repaired it. I've glued it and clamped it. There's a tiny little dark line you can see where I've put some new vintage cherry in there to cover up the sort of cracking where the paint had come off, and then I've lacquered over the top, and I'm going to polish that out and you won't notice it, so it'll be a nice firm repair. So other than that, this guitar is now really nice, and I'm looking forward to getting that down to Kerno, down in Cornwall. I've just had another inquiry come in. 1:30, okay, I'm just going to tell somebody that's good, and somebody's coming over, a local person, to bring a couple more guitars, so it's all go. I'm also trying, this is between you and me, I'm trying to persuade my stepson, who is in a typical stepson type of position. He's coming up on 17 soon. I wish this would stay still. He'll be 17, not soon, in a few months. So he's 16 right now, and he's not enjoying his college much. He's not doing terribly well academically, and it's not his thing. And so, like all kids at that age, he's a bit scared of the future, and you know, he would love to sort of have a job, but he doesn't know how to go out and have have the social skills to go out and do it, or the confidence. So I know that feeling because I was right back there once. Now Thomas did begin by taking a bit of an interest in some of the guitar things here, and it's looking like we're getting more and more business. So it would be great for him to get him back into this. So between you and me, I'm going to try and put a proposal to him today. One of the things I think he could be really good at is refretting guitars, because it's a kind of finite process. It's a start and an end, and you can really see what you've achieved. I love it, so I'm thinking he might enjoy it too. So I'm going to try and sneakily get him back into that, because if he does, it means he can be really useful and he can get some great experience. Of course, it will be informal to begin with, but a little bit later, a couple of months from now, I will be looking at setting up as a business anyway. I need to do that. My work status is changing generally, so my day job is changing, which is great. So it's kind of pushing me to formalise Real Love Guitars. It's been a great year of getting it going as a hobby, but now it's time to formalise it a bit more, and gives me some possibilities. But one of those is to get Thomas to get a bit of real life work experience, but doing something I hope that he'll find rewarding and feel confident about. That's the main thing, is to get his confidence up. Anyway, family shenanigans aside, here we are. Just gonna, while you're looking at the guitar nut, I'm just going to fire back an answer to this guy. I'll say 130 is fine. 130 is fine. Where's the thing gone? 130 is good. That's an hour and a half. I'll see you then. Okay. I've kept my phone on and stuck it over on the whiteboard, hoping that it won't interfere, because at the moment I need to still be receiving messages from prospective customers and whatnot. So switching it off altogether isn't such a good idea sometimes. Okay, I'm just lining up my nut files in the right order, so I know where I'm at. And I will also have standing by my other things, which are, what do they call them, welding nozzle cleaners. Right, so the job here is to get a decent playing action on the nut end of this thing, and I'm going to aim for 0.3 of a millimetre. It's an action that I've found over time works really well. What's interesting is just to note that the 0.3, if I aim for a 0.3 of an action, I cut the slots here to give me a 0.3 of an action, 0.3 of a millimetre of the strings over the first fret. What I know is, as I take the gravity or the weight off that guitar, or the pressure, and put it up into a playing position, that gap will increase. All right, so 0.3 is nice and low, and it will probably go up to a 0.35 or a 0.4, which is absolutely fine by me. So I'm just telling you that in this position, this guitar is under the force of gravity, and the neck is currently bending, and you can tell by listening to the note. Take it off. Actually, sorry, the point is it gets lower when it gets slightly lower when I take the gravity off. It's slightly different if I leave it dangle off the edge here. It's the opposite. So it depends what should I do. If I do the work with the neck hanging off here, it's under gravity pressing downwards. If I do the work with the neck under a block here, it's pressing upwards, which means the gap is going to get slightly smaller. Sorry, that's the important thing. I got it wrong way around. But there you are. So it's up to you. If I do it this way, then I might go for 4, knowing that it will go down to 3. If I do it the other way, hanging off here, I know that it will increase. If I do it here, it will decrease. So if I do it on the block, which gives me a more stable position, I'm going to go for 4 instead of 3, and I can see that there's loads of room under there. So the first thing I'm going to do is just slacken off the string a little bit and take it off to one side, and I'm going to get my, this is I've done 10s on here, so I'm going to need to work these nut files slightly out of sequence because they are the wrong size. I've only got one file, one set. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this with what would be the low E on a set of 9s, and I'm going to follow up with a slightly wider one, which will bring it back to equivalent of a 10s. So I'm just sort of using the file as a cutting for its cutting power, and then widening it a little bit. That's why I had these standing by. With a set of 9s, which I usually use, I don't have to do this because they match up pretty well. So the process of this is do a bit of cut, a bit of tension on it so it slots, goes as far as into the slot as it can, and then measure the gap, and if it's if there's still an air space, fresh air between the string and your feeler gauge, then you've got more to go. I'll take some more out with the file. I'm doing a bit of a wiggle here to widen it as well, because it needs to be a bit wider than the 46. So 42, yeah. The 10s ends in a 46, I think. Okay, so it's just a matter of taking a bit away, moving the string again, and I'm doing it in a slightly backward downhill position so that it's a slope going backwards away from the front edge of the nut, because what I want is for the string to just pivot over the top or the leading edge of the nut, the front edge, this edge. And if I do that, then what it means is that the playing length of the string begins at the front edge of that and then the top edge of the bridge saddle, and that's what I'm aiming for. Okay, now I think we are just about on the mark with that one. I'm not going to go any further. You can hear when I put the feeler gauge under, it's just choking it off. So now I can tell you that that's a nice gap, and it will be less than 0.4. It'll be probably more like 0.3 if I just demonstrate it. Yeah, just under 0.3. So it's a 0.1 and a little bit over 0.1 of a difference when we do it this way. But we'll leave that there for a minute. Sorry, I'll have to take that off. Now we're going to work on the next one, and for this we're going to still stay with the 0.42 because I'm using them out of sequence since I only have a set for a 9s. And again, we'll go with go back to 0.4. Again, you can see lots of fresh air under that. It's really quite easy to see it visually what's going on. Quite a bit to cut at the beginning, and I'm blowing all the detritus away, and then lifting this over, dropping it back into there, checking, playing the note, make sure that it plays, and if it plays, you know you've got further to go. It's when it starts to buzz it off or choke it off that you know you're close to the optimum or the correct height. Again, I'm just checking all the time to make sure this is sinking to the bottom. If this isn't quite right for the dimensions, what can happen is you can get the strings sitting out a bit on the ledge and sitting up on the slot if it's not quite the right width, and then what you'll get is a false reading and you'll end up cutting too far, and I've already done that yesterday. You may have seen if you watched that video. So I'm overcutting slightly just to make sure that I don't run into that problem. I need the string to go right to the bottom of the available slot, and actually it's probably a good idea if I switch over to reading super duper reading specs just to be absolutely sure of this. I want to get that all the way down. Quite a lot of dust coming up here. I'll get my old faithful toothbrush if I need to dig it right out. Toothbrush can always come in handy for everything, not just your teeth. I feel like the dental nurse taking away all the spit. Okay, well this one, again, it's gone down pretty quick, so I may be in a rescue repair scenario here. This is quite tricky. Yeah, that's not good. Okay, so here you see it live. Something that this is cutting really quick, surprisingly quick. So I've got to take this down because this is now too low for my liking. Go back. Dink. There's a slight downside for me on not having the full set of thingies. It ends up costing me a couple of times in a row that I go too far on these things. So I'm going to take a swipe at this, knock it out, and put a replacement in. And I've got a bone one which I can put in place. So. Well, that one is going to take me longer because that has decided to come out in bits, so I'm going to have to file that down to a nice clean thing again. What was that made of? I can find where it went. I can't rightly see. Okay. So this is going to take a little while, unfortunately. I'm going to tie off these strings, get them out of the way, and get some little files out and get on the case. So I'm going to put it on hold and I'll come back to you after, when I've got a new nut fitted, and make sure when I fit a new nut that this time I've got the depth cut correctly. I don't end up having to do this again. Okay. It's cool. Yes, that's added a bit of unnecessary time to the whole thing. But such is life. It happens. It would have been easier to be working with the exact correct gauge of thingies. Put this through here. Yes, pain in the backside. Still, looks like I'll be working on this little fella for quite some time longer, including doing something with the, doing a bit more with the electrics, I think. Let's get these off to one side as well, a bit further off. Okay, right. Boring. I'll stop, clean this up, and put a new one in, and we'll go again. Sorry about that. Okay, right. I'm back again. Let me just turn off the news quiz. I heard it yesterday, and it's not funny twice. Sometimes it's not funny once, but hey. Okay, we've got seagulls going on outside of here. It's raining and a bit grim, but there we are. Okay, so we're back with a new bone nut, and yeah, that other one was a weird plastic, and it split in the oddest of ways, I have to say. Anyway, this one I'm going to do on the dangle, but for that I'm going to need some clever lighting to give me as much of a shadow as I can possibly get, so I can get this right. And let's put the power cable around the back. Yes, so let's have a look. Yeah, I can see quite nicely. So I'm gonna let it hang off the guitar this time, so that I know that it's going to increase the gap when I put it up rather than decrease it. I want to put it back into a playing position, and so I can just take this one off first and just get going. And again, it's on 10, so we're going to need to cut this wider than this set that I've currently got. So I'll start with the 42. And again, it's just a matter of time now. And I go wider as well, so I get my extra thingy out on its chunkiest setting. And they're pretty hard to use, these welding nozzle cleaning things, but I have to say they are very handy, because compared to the nut slot files, yeah, the nut slot files are great, but they are expensive. So if you're getting into this, these inexpensive things are a fabulous start point. The only downside is when you get to the little thin ones, they're almost impossible to use and they bend very, very quickly. But if you're careful and you take your time, you can get a few uses out of them. By the way, I can hear a bird of prey flying above the shed at the moment. Single peeping noise. That one. Yeah, so they're not bad as a starter devices. So you don't spend loads of money before you've worked out whether you really want to be doing more of this. So a good economical start point, and you can develop a technique eventually. Hey. Okay, I've got a guy coming around here at 1:30, so he's bringing a couple of guitars. Yes, so I will need to be talking to Thomas soon. You can hear that bird of prey sitting up somewhere.
I know, it's squeaking away. Thought something had been caught.
Maybe.
It's a baby, isn't it?
Actually, it does sound a bit like that.
Right, wish me luck.
Good luck. Enjoy
I have
it.
to put this over my head when I come
Oh,
back.
it's just a haircut. Haircut. What time is it now? It is 12:40. Right.
You might hate it.
I won't. I'm sure I won't. It'll be lovely. Enjoy it. See you when you're back. So this guy John might be here.
Okay.
It sort of feels like it's there somewhere, Claire. It's sort of.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Probably a baby buzzard. We have so many buzzards down here. It's really nice. There's nothing endangered about them at all in this part of the country. So loads of distance to go. What happens when we put in a new nut like this, we end up cutting the top down. Once we've got the slots to the right depth, we'll cut the top down, take away some of the excess height, because you don't need all of that material above the slot. But it's really important to get the depth right, to give that first fret action that you need to get that. That's the target. And I said a few times on these videos that often when you start in playing guitar, you sort of have to try and gauge by what I suppose what we call the conventional wisdom is, and it's always what you find in the forums, and it's probably a kind of contradiction in terms to look for the conventional wisdom in a forum. But by that I mean you sort of go there and you find out what other people are saying. And I remember when I started in playing guitars, the conventional wisdom seemed to be that the most important thing to do if you wanted to be a proper musician or a guitar setter upper or whatever was to make sure that your priority seemed to be making sure that your strings didn't sit deeply within the nut. And there's still people to this day who you'll see making comments on forums where they see somebody's guitar with the nut slot, the string really far down in the slots, and they'll be very, very critical of that. And actually, it's kind of, there's an argument for that, and that is that if you, or the higher out the string sits onto a little groove rather than into a slot, the less friction there'll be on the string, so the smoother it will travel through the groove, and therefore your tuning will be more stable and your bends will be better. And that's probably got some truth in it. However, if you cut with a slot file like this, you're pretty much cutting a trench that is the same width all the way down, and then really it's not like it's going to reach around the string and clamp it off a bit more and choke the string and make it stick. What's true is that when your string is in a trench, it's true that you've got the bottom part and some of the sides touching the bone in this case, so you've got quite a fairly large surface area for friction to take place, or for there to be friction. So that's worth thinking about. So ideally you do want as little touching the material as possible, but while that's important, it's not the number one priority. So just to cut a little indentation and sit all your strings neatly on top of it, like this bone nut currently shows, that's very pretty, but it's actually the wrong priority, because what you've got is a height over the first fret, which is now gives you major intonation problems and makes the guitar very difficult to play. So it's about, my advice would be, focus on the first fret action as the priority, and then once you've got that, if you want to let your strings sit proud of the slots, then take the strings off the side and cut this nut down so that you're left with semicircular slots, if you like, where the strings can sit proud, to achieve that thing as a secondary consideration, really. So it's just about the priorities, getting those the right way round in my book. And the reason I say that is just because I know become a great advocate of the scale of the difference that the tiny variations in height make to the playing experience and the intonation as well on a guitar like this. So I prioritise it that way because I know how big an impact this first fret height has, so I make that my priority, and then the visual side of it secondary. Now, this is really a big chunky new bone nut, so I've got quite a long way to go, and I'm going to save you the boredom of sitting watching me take this long for every single slot that I'm going to cut, and believe me, I will. So if I can save you that time, let me just get this first one done, and then I'll switch the video off again and go off and do the rest on my own, and come back later when we're ready to go into the final action settings and then the intonation settings. So this, I'm using this second one to get the width right for the 10 gauge strings. So I'm just checking this gap now. Still loads to go, but I'm getting there. And because I'm letting the neck sag under gravity, I'm also conscious that when it comes to standing this up in the playing position, some of the gap will actually open up, because the neck will kind of spring forward, if you like, rather than now it's under a bit of gravity bending backwards. So whatever I get to now will increase the distance a little bit. So we're nearly there, it's not far off. I can still see a little gap, but we're getting there. And once I get there properly, then I will stop and we'll move on, and I'll cut the video. and join you later on. With this guitar, I was just responding to a comment on the YouTube video for the first part of the setup on this guitar, and somebody was asking where the part 2 was, and I said it was on its way. Okay, that's on the mark. So I said part 2 was on its way. I just changed the pickups over, but I pointed out that I hadn't done really anything with the pots or the capacitors, and I'm thinking, for having put nice Tonerider thingies in there, it would be a real shame. That's nice. A real shame not to take advantage of that and make the difference, make up the difference. So I may well go back to this guitar later on and upgrade those capacitors and the pots, because it just seems false economy to put really nice pickups in here and then not do anything with the circuitry. And it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so that's the first one done. I'm just going to jump it off to the side, get on with the next set, and just go all the way across. Then I'm going to put some graphite in the holes. I'm going to shave back, reshape the nut so that there isn't so much string buried so far into it. And then where there's some, that's not too bad a fit, but there are some tiny gaps here. I'm going to use a little bit of bone dust that I shaved off another nut a couple of weeks, or a week ago in fact. And this is really good, even if you buy a bone nut just to do this to it. Get yourself a pot of bone dust, because I will tip some of that into the gaps, pack it in, and then I'll put a tiny bit of super glue on top of that, and that will set into a filler paste, which I can lightly sand down and then lacquer over the top. Alright, so that just gives you a little fill, just to yeah, take out any little tiny gaps, because it's very, very difficult to get an absolute sort of mathematically precise join when you've taken one nut out and put another one in. You get it at a factory, you can buy more expensive tools and hope to get it, but in this case I'm just going to fill any irregularities once we're done. Okay, so I'm going to do the others. I'll stop you, come back to you a bit later on. Okay, so here we are with the Chibson, nearly ready to go. Setup's been done. Got to just tidy up the little filler around the nut, which is fine, and then I'm gonna do that indoors and then do a little bit of lacquering. So lacquering, polishing it out, and it'll be back to shiny. But the difference in these pickups is clearly audible. And actually, it's interesting. Actually, it could be because they're set too far down. But I was going to say, there's quite a difference between the front ones and the back ones. Let's go inwards, get them up. Yeah, so the bridge is quite a bit lower at the moment, so we just want to balance it up a little bit, although we don't want them too high. As our friend Scott Grove would say, we don't want them interfering with magnets. The neck is really warm and tasty. Sorry, my cluster finger doesn't really work. At the output specs on this, but that front one is warmer by some amount than the rear one. Just gonna check these. They don't come out very evenly. They're a bit. It's about balanced. Okay, so that's the pickups working nicely. I'm not going to change the pots and capacitors, partly because it's another 20 odd quid's worth of equipment to go in there, and actually at the moment Jay is not sure whether he's selling or keeping this guitar, so It plays pretty nicely without. The pickups themselves have made a hell of a difference. Maybe it's something, if he wants to keep it, we might do this separately, but I'm going to get it finished up so I can take it to him tomorrow and let him have a listen to how good it sounds. The thing we've got to do now is just check the intonation. And people have been saying these Chibsons are horrible, but with nice pickups, there's nothing wrong with that. Everything about this is playing nicely. I'd be happy to play that. Right, so what we're doing, we are doing the intonation. So the intonation is a matter of making sure that the string is the right playing length, or the free length of the string, or whatever is the right length for this neck. And we do that using the tuner. It's very handy. And we tune to a 12th harmonic, which happens to be perfectly in tune. And then we fret it and compare the two. So harmonic, fretted, harmonic. Now it's going to change each time because it's dependent on how hard you press, and everybody does it differently every time. So when you're doing this, you have to balance it out on an average and hope that you get a sort of general, kind of evened out average on how you play the guitar, how you fret it. And I would say that for me is coming up as sharp, which means that the string's too short, which means we need to go anti-clockwise on this to take the string backwards. Now I'm going to just lift it up here to do it like this and knock off volume because it will make a bit of noise otherwise, and anti-clockwise. Now this is what annoys me about the Les Paul. It's really difficult to get in here to do this adjustment. Okay, a couple of tweaks backwards. Again, put it down into playing position. Give it back the volume. A slight tune. Give me all the volume I could get, please. Still a little bit sharp, so I want to go backwards, and anti-clockwise is the way to go, I think. I'm not a great fan of these Tunematic bridges. I don't think they adjust intonation at all well. Slightly sharp, so we continue to go anti-clockwise. Danger is, I keep finding with these Tunematic bridges, is that you very quickly run out of adjustment room before it's really registered, and I don't find, for some reason, I don't find it registers anywhere near as quickly as a Strat style. See, I'm going backwards, and that note should be getting lower, and you can see it isn't appearing to make any difference at all, and it won't be long before I run out of space with this one, and I certainly can't see how I'm going to set the others back of this, which they need to go if you take the normal pattern of intonation into account. I'm going to stop there because I've got no more room really. Having said that, it's not that far off. As a rule, that type of difference is hardly noticeable in play. That's near. Good enough. When I say good enough, I mean in my experience that is so close as you won't hear the difference. So that's what I mean by good enough. Not like can't be bothered, good enough. The real place where intonation is made or breaked is down here. Close enough. Hello. Okay. Give me an A, please. Spot on. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there we have it. Like the V99 vintage, I'm going to take this one indoors and give it its final little go over with some clear lacquer just to blend this in. A bit more filing actually here, but I'll do it indoors. A bit of clear lacquer after that to blend it in, and then a polish with micro mesh to give it a shine so it blends in perfectly. That will be this one done. So very happy with the way it sounds. Those Tonerider pickups are pretty nice sounding, and yeah, that would be a guitar worth keeping. So for those of you who think anything Chibson-y must be absolute garbage, if it's true that Jay paid 60 quid for this and maybe 80 quid for the Toneriders, and an undisclosed sum, actually a very reasonable sum, a friend's rate of 50 quid to have it set up by me, in B, not my usual rate, but anyway, so it's 110, 190 quid. So really, for just around 200 quid, he's got a completely playable and very, very well set up Les Paul copy. Not my thing, the Gibson replica. Forget all the moral, ethical things. I just don't see the need to pretend it's something it isn't. The vintage doesn't try and pretend that, and it's a nice guitar too. But this is a very nice piece of guitar. There's nothing at all wrong with this, and with good pickups in it like this, you could play that all day long and gig with it, and it's pretty good quality. So there you go. Chibson, made in China Gibson, fake, counterfeit, yes, all the rest of it. Les Paul copy with Tonerider pickups. Of course, the thing to remember is Jay may have got this for 60 quid, but most people won't. Most people will pay around £200 to get theirs from Alibaba or somewhere like that, in which case, the price to get it working and playing as well as this goes up substantially. So in reality, that would be more like if you say it's 250 plus your 80, 330 plus setup time, you're coming close to £400. Then it starts to kind of matter to you whether it's a credible Gibson copy or not, in which case it isn't, because that's a bit lousy. But for Jay, this is not a bad guitar, and it's personally, I would keep this one and not the Flametastic Leotardi. What the hell was it called? Minarik Inferno. I wouldn't keep that. I would keep this Les Paul copy, because at least it's got some quality pickups and it's a good rock and roll guitar. Okay, thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for your comments and feedback on YouTube and on the Facebook page. Look forward to chatting with more of you there in the coming weeks and months, and hope to see you again on some other guitar where I do very much the same thing. But we do have some really interesting ones coming up. A couple of very old Fenders. One is a very old Japanese Squire, which I'm going to hope to do a bit of it today, later on. And another one for a couple of weeks from now is one that just turned up today, which is the 1983 Fender Bullet, first version of the Fender Bullet, and that is a real classic guitar. So going to do a bit of homework on that and see what people say about it and any way I need to approach it. One of the things I do know about it is I probably need to take the frets out sideways, which is one of the characteristic things of American-made Fenders. American-made Fenders of certain before 1983, at which point they started putting them sideways. So I'm not sure whether this will be a sideways fret removal or whether it will be the normal up and down way, but it is a maple, lacquered maple neck, so that's gonna it's going to be a challenge to get it right. But I've got some maple or fingerboard protector strips coming, which I really need to wait for before I do that one. So anyway, yeah, see you again.